Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. So in this one we're going to be breaking down how my team got on game week 5 so far. We are still anticipating the Leicester versus Manchester United result tonight, but most of our, I think, managers' teams have played now, so we can go ahead and break down the game week so far. In the second half of the video I've also got some key observations that were made across the game week so far and some general FPL ones also, so stick around for that. If you are new to the channel, then please do consider subscribing to the content. It's free and you can always change your mind later on. And of course, if you enjoy the content specifically, smash that like button below. So without further ado, let's jump into how the team has done so far. In fact, I say so far, it is now said and done with a 75 pointer. All 11 of my starting individuals have now played with a current rank of 1.3 million, and that is taken from livefpl.net, and that is post substitution. So I think Andreas is coming on for a substantial amount of managers for that 6 points. With the news about Reece James, I think a lot of managers had him still regardless. And of course now he will be subbed in for him. I think ultimately though, it's a green arrow. I will take it. I'm still very happy with the 75 points overall. Although the captain on Haaland, for a while I anticipated that my rank would have been a little bit higher if it wasn't for those assists from Salah. But anyway, moving back to front in terms of the team then, we've got Robert Sanchez in nets, scoring 1 point, his worst score so far this season, but ultimately I saw that coming. Fulham at Craven Cottage have looked absolutely fantastic so far at home, providing a lot of threat. And ultimately for about the first half an hour, I thought that they were the dominant side and really could have scored in that opener. But of course, in the end, resulting in 2 conceded goals for him without any save points. So I think he registered 2 saves. He couldn't quite get to the 3. And ultimately no bonus this time. So he's actually risen in price again, that so many managers believe that he potentially is going to be doing more damage to them moving forward. And I do think he is probably the best option, at least up until a wild card, where I'll assess it from then. So still happy with him as a pick, but scoring 1 point this week. Moving into the defence next, Gabriel was one of my 2 free transfers this week. I decided to take Reece James out in that last minute, after that last minute news of his illness. There was a 50% flag on him at the time. There was only speculation of it being only an illness, and he potentially wouldn't have been available for the West Ham game. So rather than hold him, and essentially I anticipated a price reduction for him, it may as well have been him to go. So ultimately I've got Nico Williams that can come in to play Bournemouth next week anyway. So I'm very, very happy to have transferred him out. Unfortunately, it hasn't resulted in an attacking return or clean sheet in the man I brought in Gabriel, but still very happy to own him moving forward. And yeah, just again, unfortunate he didn't get that clean sheet. Moving into Kyle Walker, he's just a 6-point machine, I think, at this point. Ultimately, he hasn't been able to cover Cancelo this week. He's only outscored him, I think, on the occasions where he hasn't got a yellow card, to be honest. But ultimately, he was 2 million cheaper. He was an option to only cover those 4 clean sheet points. It wasn't about attacking returns for him. Anything else would have been a major bonus for him over these past 5 weeks. So still happy as an owner for him. He's not, like I say, been able to match Cancelo, but still very, very positive with him. TAA next with 2 points this week again. Ultimately, Liverpool are just looking very, very fragile defensively. I think missing Konate and Matip as a partnership for Van Dijk is hurting them. I also think the midfield injuries they have with the likes of Thiago, I think it's underestimated how much control he gives the match for Liverpool at home and away. What he does in terms of dictating tempo, I think really helps and suits the way that Liverpool play defensively and attackingly, right? So Trent benefits from that 9 times out of 10, and Robertson as well. But it's just unfortunate that those guys are missing, and it's meant another clean sheet wipeout for Liverpool. Still though, the reason we have him, or the majority of the reason we have him in our FPL teams, are for those important attacking returns. Not registering anything in this game week, but still top of the charts for defenders in terms of XGI. So for me, he's a definite hold. He's a large investment, yes, and ultimately the clean sheets are I would say the benefit, essentially the added extra on top of what this man can do from an attacking point of view. So moving into the midfield next, it's Mo Salah with a double-digit 10-pointer, sitting on 5 points for a lot of the game. No bonus points would have been the case, but ultimately a last-minute dying minute essentially assist for Carvalho, and got himself on the bonus points as well for an additional 2, meaning he racked up 10 points total. So still happy to own him. Of course, he was vice captain for me. Captainers very, very happy, of course, with that 10-point haul, resulting in 20 points for them. And yeah, just all round, I think his determination just showcases why we have him in our FPL teams. He just seems to crop up in the right places at the right time. Snatch that goal against Manchester United in the 80th minute, and does essentially almost the same in the 98th minute against Newcastle here with an assist. So very happy to own him as well. Saka, unfortunately, is providing the assist for a Martinelli goal, which isn't exactly what I wanted, but I'm still glad that he's got an attacking return. It's now 2 that he's got for me. It's not anywhere near the level or the volume that I wanted. He is, I think, around 13, 14 points behind Martinelli in terms of a direct like for like, which isn't ideal considering I've paid a lot more money for him than managers did for Martinelli at the beginning of the season, and he's lost value to boot. So ultimately not gone in my favour, but again, I still stand by the decisions and ultimately sticking by him, probably now up until the wild card at least, right? So unfortunately not a favourable fixture next against Man United, but ultimately the next few weeks I still think that there could be returns from him. Pascal Gross next. I think ultimately with him, again, he is still a good decision or a good transfer in, but because he's not on penalties, it does make his appeal a lot less. I've covered this before in previous videos, of course, but with McAllister taking penalties, it's now been 2 penalties that Brighton have had in the time I've owned Pascal Gross. And I think ultimately that if he's not on them, his value definitely isn't as great as we initially thought when managers were bringing him in 3 weeks ago. But he's still managed a few attacking returns in that time frame. So if you're looking at Rodrigo replacements, I definitely think that he's still a good option moving forward, at least up until a Brighton fixture swing come game week 9 onwards, where a lot of managers, of course, are considering wildcards anyway. So I still think he's a great option. Of course, then that moves into our second transfer of the week in Rodrigo. Again, unfortunately not registering any type of return for us. I still justify the decision-making process. This is just sheer luck, the simple fact, or unluckiness in terms of what's happened. He scored 1 point after 30 minutes in terms of an appearance point due to his shoulder dislocation. It's just, we can't foresee this thing happening. This is what football is about. There are unfortunate events that happen in FPL worlds or in the FPL community. We just need to essentially take the data, take everything that we've got in front of us and make a decision on that basis. Again, it is unfortunate he's only scored 1 point. He's probably coming out of my team this week as quick as he's gone in it this week, but it's just something that we have to take on the chin. These things happen. And of course, then a bit of a saving grace for many managers. Andreas Pereira coming with 6 points again, an assist for him for an own goal for Liverpool, and ultimately just it's resulted in him coming off the bench. I think for a lot of people that started Reece James not knowing the information. And probably would have only scored maybe 1 point if he would have got no attacking returns against Southampton. They're now seeing Andreas coming off the bench for 6 points, right? So very good return from him. And I think ultimately that's why he's in our team. He's a 4.5 million bench option that can cover injuries, that can come up with an attacking return from time to time. And just proving that he's, in my opinion, still the highlight or the best budget midfielder option. And finally, last but not least, the 2 strikers with major returns for us overall. Jesus with that 1 goal. Unfortunate not to maybe get a little bit more, but he looks so lively. I'm still very happy that I've gone with him from the beginning. His returns have been absolutely phenomenal. Of course, he is so highly owned that really what he does on the pitch doesn't really mean anything for us in terms of rank, but he just keeps ticking over, and it's great to see that those returns keep coming. And again, Erling Haaland with a hat-trick. I definitely didn't expect a 34-pointer from him when I put the armband on him. If you tuned into the live stream or you saw any kind of breakdown or my watch list as well, including him in there, I foresaw a goal or 2 for sure, even though he may have only played 30 minutes. My justification was that I saw more returns from Haaland in 30 minutes than I saw in Salah for 90 minutes ultimately. If that was going to be the case, it turned out that Haaland did get more minutes than that, but he still only needed half an hour to give us the 17 points that he did. So I think he's an absolute must-own, a phenomenal FPL asset, taking the Premier League by storm and breaking records left, right and centre. I think he's going to be the difference maker for City in terms of their European games as well. I just think that even with limited minutes, this man is still going to be a justified 12 million, because he's heading that way, right? He's already 11.9, a 12 million price point player. I think even if he doesn't start, he gets returns. So for me, he's an absolute must-own and definitely one to consider moving forward. So let's jump into the second half of the video where I break down maybe some more generic viewpoints across the game week, again touching on specific players and teams as well, hopefully just to aid you in your decision making for game week 6 and beyond. So number one, we've already mentioned it, the new Rodrigo owners, including myself, can definitely consider ourselves unlucky, right? Ultimately, these things happen in football. We can't control it, but there are several mid-price replacements that are an easy one move away. So Aronson, Martinelli and Gross are probably the three standout options for me. I think Aronson, if you do want to, or Harrison could make that cut as well if you want to continue supporting a Leeds attacker. Martinelli as well, from an Arsenal perspective, okay, he has Man United in at the weekend, but he can still provide a return for sure based on his form. And of course, Gross, already mentioned, I think he's probably he's lower down the list now than others just because he's not on penalties, but he's still providing a lot of threat. I think Trossard could equally make that list, and also one to mention that may feature in my watch list is Ward-Prowse. I think Southampton's fixtures over the next few, again, if you're looking at a Game Week 9 wildcard as a short-term punt, he's only a few 0.1 millions more expensive, and I think an easy sideways move if that's something to consider. I've also mentioned Anthony Gordon again after he's basically scored another fantastic finish, another fantastic goal, but the fixtures for Everton just don't look promising enough, in my opinion, to justify a swap for him at this point. Moving into point number 2, Mitrovic is definitely looking like the best budget striker option that we have, and in my opinion could easily replace a 6 or 7 million defender or even a 6 or 7 million midfielder, whichever your choice is. I think most people are set up with 2 strikers if you haven't already adjusted the structure, but if you are looking to move in for that third forward, I think easily Robertson or someone along those lines could be removed from our teams, swap them down to a 4.5 or a 4.0 defender and upgrade our 4.5 million striker position up to Mitrovic. I would say that his next 2 fixtures don't look exactly exciting. Game week 8 onwards definitely looks like a better option and more promising for him. But if you want to jump on him early, as he's already proven that he can score against difficult teams, or arguably what you would say are more difficult teams on paper, I think ultimately he could be worth the punt. Number 3 then, Haaland continues to impress as mentioned and breaking records already. I can't see any type of reason as of yet to remove him from the team, even with that risk of rotation. There was a lot of conversation about, is it just an easy swap to Kane? Do we go by, XGI in terms of, XG minutes over XGI, or, what do we do in terms of managers for our decision making? I think ultimately 2 hat-tricks in 2 games has got to be enough proof that we just keep him in our teams regardless. I personally think that investment is justified whether he plays 30 minutes or 10 or even 90, right? So, very happy to own him. Moving into point number 4, I think Newcastle were unlucky to come away from Anfield with no points. Again, though, that's a football situation rather than FPL specific. However, Isak could definitely be a short-term punt, I think, between Game Week 6 and a wild card into Mitrovic. I think his price point, he scored essentially 2 goals against Liverpool, the second one of course being chalked off from a narrow offside position, but he looks great. I think, if he can keep himself fit, I think he's registered as a dead leg opportunity at the moment, so he's got 75% chance of playing at the weekend. But if he can keep himself fit, I think he keeps Chris Wood and Wilson at bay for a significant amount of time, considering the value that Newcastle have put in him in terms of what they paid. I think ultimately he can become a very, very good target man for Newcastle moving forward. So exciting things from him, I think, and he probably makes my watch list video tomorrow or Saturday morning. I think Salah owners as well can be once again pleased with the way the Egyptian finds way of getting FPL points. He just, 2 assists, ultimately the second one coming in the dying minutes of the match. I mean, he's ultimately turned a 5 pointer into a 10 pointer because he's so hungry. He just wants to be involved all the time in everything, and ultimately his statistics are still backing up and justifying him as a pick. So again, I think as an armband decision, or as even just a choice to bring him in, captain or no captain, I think he's 13 million. It isn't justified in terms of his points overall so far, but he will just keep ticking over, right? So very, very happy to own him. And then finally, Bournemouth, again, a team to mention that I think they're a fixture to target. After watching the highlights between Bournemouth and Wolves, I think Wolves were very, very wasteful. I mean, Jimenez having a chance, Pedence having a header cleared off the line, Neto coming close. There was so many opportunities that Wolves had, and those are just some to note that I've just mentioned. I think ultimately they were lucky to keep a clean sheet against Wolves, right? And I think against any clinical position, not just Liverpool, of course they put 9 against them. I think when you put the top 4 teams, top 6 teams even, if you include, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Chelsea and United maybe in the mix there, I think ultimately double digits may not even be far away. They're a team that are in a bit of turmoil. They've decided to sack Scott Parker as well. So I personally think that they remain a fixture to target. And again, talking about Nico Williams, I think that's why he makes my team selection, which again, I will release either tomorrow morning or Saturday. So stay tuned and stick around for that one if you want to. But I think I'm going to wrap the video up there, guys. Again, hopefully the video has been useful for you. I'm hoping that you guys got on just as well as I did in Game Week 5. Let me know in the comments below how you did get on. Did you trust in Erling Haaland to start and put the armband on him? Did you tune into my live stream? Did you make a last minute decision based on seeing me with the captaincy on him? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Always pleasure to reply back to those comments in the video. And again, yeah, hopefully you found the content useful. So please stick around for that next video, and I'll see you then.